Good morning, everybody. The subject of my talk this morning is reincarnation, fact or fiction. The idea of reincarnation is abundantly present in the scriptures of Hinduism. Most religions at one time believed in reincarnation, but at a later date, Christianity anathemized it. But anyway, now that the subject of my talk is reincarnation, one may wonder what reincarnates. A layperson will say it is the soul which reincarnates. But Hinduism has to explain everything clearly. According to Hinduism, a person has two bodies. One is the gross body, the other one is the subtle body, fine body. This gross body of a person consists of flesh, bones, etc. And the subtle body is composed of the sense organs, the motor organs, and the mind. They form the subtle body. When a person dies, his gross body is left behind, but his subtle body goes on existing. And it is very interesting that the subtle body also looks very much like the gross body. So, but where does the subtle body go? Hinduism says this subtle body goes to a different plane of existence. And such different planes of existence are called lokas in Sanskrit. What is a loka? That answer also has been given by Hinduism. In the Katha Upanishad, there is a statement, Yadidam kincha jagat sarvam prana ejati nisritam. That means this world of which we are aware, which we perceive, that originated from God or Brahman. And after being created by Brahman, the world keeps on vibrating in cosmic energy. And this world has a certain set of vibrations, but there are many such worlds like this with different sets of vibration. And when a person dies, his gross body remains in this world, but subtle body, depending upon the quality of the mind of that person, goes to one of these other worlds or planes of existence or lokas. There are some people who are relatively rare who can see some subtle things which ordinary people cannot see. They are sometimes called psychic. And there was one religious leader, saintly leader, his name was Krishna Goswami. He lived in 19th century India. He was a contemporary of Sri Ramakrishna. He had great respect for Sri Ramakrishna also. And Krishna Goswami had that ability to see subtle things. Once he went to see a very elderly lady who was dying. That elderly lady was spiritually advanced. And Vijayakrishna Goswami went to that room where that elderly lady was there on bed, and he could see that on top of the lying body of that elderly lady, she was still alive, another body is being made. And that body is floating on above, and there is a connecting link like some white rope between the two. And then when the lady died, that no rope was snapped, and the floating body which was there became alive. That was the subtle body of that lady, and it was emitting some light. That body was very similar to her physical body which she possessed while she was alive, but this subtle body was emitting light, it was luminous. And then another soul with similar luminous body came and took her away to the world to which she belonged, I think, to the local. Vijayakrishna Goswami saw that. And another time, Vijayakrishna Goswami went to see a young man, newly married young man who was in his deathbed. There also he could see a floating body on top of the young man's body, connected by something like a rope. And the upper body, when the floating body, when this young man died, became alive. And then, but the body of this, subtle body of this young man was of dull color, sort of dark color. And that the young man, another person, most probably a guide, came from that world to which this young man was supposed to go. He also had a similar dark body, and he came and requested that young man to go along with him, but the young man did not listen to him. The young man was thinking that he was still alive, so he went to his wife, who was in another room crying, thinking that her husband was dying, and then he went and stood before her and said to her, "I am not dead, look at me." But his wife could not see him first, but then the young man, with great concentration of mind, said, "Look at me, I am alive, I am not dead." And then something happened. His wife could suddenly see him, and she got scared, and she ran out of the room saying, "Oh, a ghost has come, please save me." The young man became very disappointed, and he slowly went away somewhere. This is what Vijayakrishna Goswami saw. That means he saw the subtle bodies of people leaving the gross body. The gross body is made of bones, flesh, etc. But the subtle body is made of the mind, the sense organs, the motor organs. And what we call the soul is a sort of reflection of divinity on our mind, and that part of the mind which is the finest and which is called intellect or buddhi. So This is what happens when a person dies. What reincarnates? It is the subtle body which reincarnates and then acquires another gross body. This is what Hinduism teaches us. And people go on reincarnating. How that idea came? Because the scriptures of Hinduism are full of this idea. The Bhagavad Gita is a popular scripture. There in the 4th chapter, there is a saying that is in Sanskrit, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tapacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani nattam vetta parantapa. Sri Krishna, divine incarnation, is saying to Arjuna, the prince, that is, Arjuna, you and I were born many times in the past. I remember all my past incarnations, but you don't remember them. So divine incarnations remember their past incarnations. So Sri Krishna, a divine incarnation, was saying that he had been born many times in the past. And even in the life of Sri Sharda Devi, she is also considered a divine incarnation. We read that when she visited South India, she could remember her past incarnation, when she was born as Sita Devi. So, but ordinary people also, some of them can remember their past incarnations. And there is, I know some people who could remember their past incarnation. Once one gentleman came from Vancouver, Canada to see me. From him I heard that he was a high school teacher in Vancouver, Canada. He could remember his past incarnation. He could remember that he was, in his past incarnation, he lived in Okanagan Valley. That is also in British Columbia, I think. And then there was a big fire in their home, and that fire killed him and the other members of the family also. The entire family was wiped out. He could remember it. And he mentioned that to his minister. He was a Christian, so a minister of his church. The minister said, "This is all your imagination. Reincarnation cannot be a fact." But he had heard that Hinduism believes in reincarnation. So he drove all the way and came to our center in Seattle. And then he said to me that he could remember his past incarnation. I said, that is quite possible. There is an expression in our religion that some people who can remember their past incarnations, they are called Jati Smara. That means they can remember their past incarnations. Jati Smara is a Sanskrit word. Who can remember his past incarnations. So, I believe in your story that what you are saying, that may be true. So, to convince others, why don't you go to Okanagan Valley where you lived? And then the entire family perished by a fire. That would be a good news item. So go and look in the newspapers, old newspapers, whether there is a mention of that. And found in an old newspaper that the news that a particular family was completely wiped out by fire, and he could remember his parents and his sisters and brothers also of his past incarnation. Then I said to him, because we publish a journal called Global Vedanta, it is a quarterly journal published by the Seattle Vedanta Society. Then I told him, why don't you write an account of your remembrance of your past incarnation, an article, and we will publish it. But he tried, but he could not, because when he would sit down to write the article, he would be overwhelmed with a feeling of sorrow and sadness, because he could remember his parents and other brothers and sisters of his past incarnation. It would not be possible for him to write. I understood that. Then there are many others who can remember their past incarnations. I have been here in Seattle for more than 46 years, and during that period I had to visit Brazil 7 times on invitation. That's how I got to know many people there. And while in Rio de Janeiro city, I met one gentleman. His name was Enrique de Souza. Enrique de Souza. Very good person, highly educated, and he was a member of the Vedanta Society of Rio de Janeiro. He told me that he has some relative, his relative who is a Catholic, that relative was a young girl, that she used to claim that she was her aunt in her previous incarnation, and she could tell in every detail what that aunt did. So that's what Enrique de Souza told me. Then while in India, I heard of one college teacher of Agra. She was a lady, and she could remember her past incarnation. And her husband of her previous incarnation was still there, but she didn't want to go and see him, because that would pose a great problem for him, because he is remarried. Anyway, the college teacher in Agra. And also our organization, which is called Ramakrishna Mission in India, runs many centers there. And some of them are educational centers, some of them are hospitals, centers, and we give service to the people by running all those things. And then we have a very large educational complex near Calcutta. It is called Narendrapur. And the Swami who was in charge of that was Swami Bhaskarananda. So, as I told you, that educational complex runs some high schools and colleges, etc. Then there was a teacher in the high school whose name was Manik Mitra, and he would say that he had a daughter who was 6 or 7 years old, and that her daughter's name was Dolan Mitra, and that daughter could remember her past incarnation, and the daughter would claim that she was a boy in her past incarnation, and she was in the city of Bardwan, a city about 80 miles from Calcutta. And that girl would love to wear the clothes of her elder brother. She would not like to wear frocks. And that girl went on claiming that he would like to go and see her real parents in the city of Bardhaman. As a result, Manik Mitra, her father, decided to go to the city of Bardhaman with that girl. And Swami Lokeshwarananda also went with him. And they went to the city of Bardhaman, and this girl was able to find the neighborhood and everything and the house where she was born, and they all went there. And she could remember every detail. She was a boy, she was studying in college and all these things. And the room where she had to stay, that also she could tell. That was very interesting. But this is a proof that reincarnation is a fact. So it was Dolan Mitra. But when she was 15 or 16 years old, her memory of her past incarnation faded away. She could not remember that. And in our order, there was a Swami, his name is Swami Vijayananda. As far as I know, he was a disciple of Swami Brahmananda. Swami Brahmananda was one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. So, Swami Vijayananda was sent by our order to work in Argentina. So, he was there. And then during that period, he would visit Brazil also frequently, and he was able to spread the message of Vedanta in Brazil. Argentina and Brazil, they are not too far away from each other. And Swami Vijayananda was once visited Germany, and when he went there, he could remember his past incarnation, and he could remember that he was a Catholic monk, and then he remembered his past incarnation vividly. Then he went to see his own grave. That was also in Germany. He saw his own grave, and he came back. And then, when Swami Vijayananda was in Brazil, he was in the city of Sao Paulo, one gentleman came. He is a Japanese engineer, but he became a great piano tuner. And that gentleman's name was Taka. And that Taka became very familiar or very close to one great musician of Brazil. His name was Mr. Gomez. And then Mr. Gomez asked him to stay with him. Mr. Gomez was not married, but he was fairly rich as a musician. And Taka started staying there. And there Swami Vijayananda saw Taka. And he could recognize Taka as one of the monks who was with him in Germany in his previous incarnation. Then he said that to Taka, but Taka did not remember his past incarnation. Anyway, Taka didn't want to marry or anything. And I talked to Taka. I asked him, are you initiated by any Swami? Have you been given some mantra or person. Then he said, yes, Swami Vijayananda gave me the mantra. Then I said, how did you get the mantra from him? He said, Swami Vijayananda said to me, I will give you some mantra. Then I thought, well, he is my well-wisher, so if he wants to give a mantra, then I will chant it. Then Taka got the mantra and he used to chant that regularly. And very recently I heard the news that Taka, who was in Sao Paulo, Mr. Gomez's house, which now is the house of the Vedanta Society, and there Taka recently passed away. He died in his sleep and he was a little over 80 years old. He was actually 84 years old. He had gone out for a walk the previous evening and then came back, and after having dinner he slept, and in the morning it was found that he had died peacefully in his sleep. That is Taka. So I saw Taka. Taka did not remember his past incarnation, but Swami Vijayananda remembered his past incarnation. And Christianity, among other religions which are not the offshoot of Hinduism, some people believed in reincarnation. They considered that as that a fact. And we have read that some early Christian church fathers, they believed in reincarnation. There was one church father named Origen, early church. He believed in reincarnation. There were some early church fathers, they also believed in reincarnation. And Saint Gregory, bishop of the city of Nyasa, also, he belonged to the 3rd century AD. And he was a Christian bishop and he believed in reincarnation. He said, yes, it is a fact. And then there was another Christian saint, his name was Saint Jerome. Saint Jerome belonged to the 4th century AD. He also believed. He said the idea of reincarnation was known to some of us, and it was kept a secret, and only a few people would be taught that. He believed in reincarnation also. So then in 538 AD, there was a Byzantine king, Byzantine emperor. His name was King Justinian. Justinian, for some strange reason, banned the idea of reincarnation from Christianity. In a council which was held in Constantinople, he banned the idea of reincarnation. He said no person should believe in that. So he anathemized the idea of reincarnation. And since then, the Christians think that there will be a judgment day when all the bodies which are buried, they will come to life, and they will then depending upon their lives, God would send some to heaven and some to hell. That's what they believe in. But we know that reincarnation is a fact. So I told you already what reincarnates. It is the subtle body of the departed soul which acquires a gross body when it enters into the womb of the mother. And who reincarnate? Some people, they go to another plane of existence or loka. And some of the lokas, which are meant for highly evolved souls, are extremely peaceful and beautiful. Everything is made of light. And those lokas and those who go there, they are not reborn. They are not reborn. But some people, they want to come back to this world. Maybe someone in this world wanted to be the president of a country, but he could not do that. But that desire was there because his mind is still there in the other world, other plane of existence, other loka. So that desire will bring him back to this world. And he will start trying to be the president of a country. That's how it is. So, reincarnation is a fact. It is considered a fact by Hinduism and the offshoots of Hinduism, such as Buddhism. And Gautama Buddha said he was a divine incarnation. He could remember his past incarnations. Sri Ramakrishna also could remember his past incarnation. He was a divine incarnation. Once he confided in Narendra, who was not a monk at that time. Later on he became the world famous Swami Vivekananda. He confided in him that Sri Ramakrishna in the past was Rama and Krishna. He incarnated as both. So, these are some proofs that we born. And this proof is based on reliable testimony. Reliable testimony is a proof. If some reliable person says so, then we believe that to be true. I will give you an example of what is reliable testimony. When our authorities decided to send me to America to serve the children of Sri Ramakrishna in this country, then I had to get a passport and a visa for America. Anyway, the passport was given by government of India, but the American embassy in Calcutta didn't want to give me a visa because they didn't believe in my age, because I was not born in a hospital, so I did not have a age certificate given by the hospital. I was born at home. But I told them what my age was, because I knew it, but they would not accept it. So I had to get reliable testimony. My elderly mother was in Benares, living there. So I sent word to her saying that you have to testify that I am so many years old. When I came here, I was 43 years old. And I've been here for more than 46 years. So My mother then requested a magistrate to come to her, and then she gave her testimony. And she sent that, which was signed by that magistrate, to me, and I presented that to the US Embassy, on the strength of which I was given my visa. In those days it was relatively easier to come to America. When I arrived here, they already gave me what is called the green card. That is I was declared a permanent resident. And the first letter that I got in this country was from the US government, and it said, "Welcome to America. You are now, if you want to be a citizen, then after 5 years you apply and you will become a citizen." So I am a citizen, American citizen. So this is one interesting story. Reliable testimony. Based on reliable testimony, we know that reincarnation is a fact. Some people who are very reliable, they are saying, and what they say is often verified also. So the subject of my talk was reincarnation, fact or fiction. Well, why I consider reincarnation a fact, I have told you, because it is based on reliable testimony. Testimony of people who are truthful and who are completely sane, and so their testimony is reliable testimony. Okay, thank you so much.